So, welcome. My name's Netta, as you probably know. I'm not sure where you know me from. It could be from the podcast Life After Sugar. It could be from a Facebook group that we're in, my own Facebook page for Life After Sugar, Instagram. I'm like all over the place, you know. So I'm happy that, you know, we're here together. Today we're going to be talking about fermented foods and drinks. Go ahead. So you want to know the difference between culture grains that can be reused and versus the powder. I don't know if you've seen in like the regular grocery stores, supermarkets, when you go to the dairy section, sometimes you see these packets of powder that you can make yogurt with. Have you ever seen those before? And so those are sort of one use, as it were. You can use them once, maybe twice or three times if you're lucky. And then your yogurt that you make with these powders, it sort of loses its potency, as it were. You can't reuse them. But an heirloom culture is one that you can use over and over and over again. And this is what's cool about making your own yogurt, is that you can buy these cultures, these either the culture for yogurt or the grains. I'll show you what I mean by grains. It's not strictly speaking grains, for kefir, and you can reuse them over and over again. I think I've reused mine for like 2 years. You also asked about a gluten-free sourdough recipe. Bread ferments naturally, that's what makes it rise, but sourdough has a different type of fermenting process. Wheat is not actually, today's wheat especially, is not actually fit for human consumption. It's not just me saying this, I'm just quoting. Our bodies, the human body is not designed to know what to do with all that, to digest it. And so either sprouting or soaking or fermenting the wheat for sourdough bread actually makes the wheat more digestible. And a lot of people who have problems with digesting gluten and or wheat find it much easier to digest sourdough bread, just because of the fermentation process that changes, that kind of makes the grains more digestible. But sourdough often solves that problem. And otherwise, you can have einkorn grains, which is sort of an heirloom type of old version, ancient version of wheat that a lot of people find they can digest. So I brought along all my gear, all my things to show you. Okay, I'm going to start off with milk kefir, the difference between milk kefir and yogurt. Can I do my teacher thing and ask you, does anybody know the difference between kefir, milk kefir, and yogurt? Differently. But yes, you're absolutely right. So it's been shown, in as much as you can measure these billions of bacteria, that kefir has like 10 times more variety of good bacteria and strains, they're called, than yogurt, which is not to say that yogurt is no good. It's just to say that, you know, kefir is like, you know, 10x that, 10 times, I can't even say better, it's got more bacteria. And they don't taste exactly the same. I don't know if you've ever tasted them, at least the store-bought ones. The ones that you make at home, they don't taste the same. The kefir is usually a little bit more, it's slightly fizzy on the tongue, and it better be, because that means the bacteria are doing their job. And a little bit more sour, some people find. But I wanted to show you, and because it's getting warm here, even in Canada, middle of June almost, and it's just starting to get warm. But this is my kefir, and can you see how it's separated? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I don't want to make it feel bad by sort of judging it. But this happens, it's not over fermented, because I know I only put it in yesterday. It's only been 28 hours maybe, which is sort of average, but it's just a bit warmer now, so it does tend to separate. You know, what you need to know about kefir and yogurt, depending on the strain that you use, is that their sort of main source of food, as it were, is lactose. And so coconut milk doesn't have lactose, but certain strains of bacteria will feed off of the sugars in coconut milk and be able to ferment it all the same. So it is definitely possible to use coconut milk. It's not their preferred source of food. And, you know, if you're either looking for reducing carbs, lactose, or you're looking to reduce lactose because of an intolerance to lactose, then fermenting your milk or your cream, in my case, is the way to go, because it brings the lactose down by at least 50%. Yeah, the shop bought ones, the alternative to dairy shop bought fermented products, honestly, I'd keep away from them for several reasons. One is that they're really expensive. Two, that you can't be sure that they're probiotic at all. They may have been fermented and then pasteurized after fermentation, which is usually what happens, in which case all the bacteria are completely dead. And it's just marketing hype. Plus, they put in all those fillers and, you know, gels and gums and God knows what. So you might as well make your own. Yeah, they're very clever, aren't they? Very sneaky. Do you need different types of grains for water kefir? Are they interchangeable? So yes, we need different types of grains for water kefir, and no, they're not interchangeable. They do look very similar. I want to show you. Water kefir is like the gut healthy version of 7-Up, right? Without the advertising budget and the sugar. And I'm going to show you what they look like. Yes, I know I'm using a metal spoon. Never mind, they'll survive. But I want to show you. I don't know if you can see. Yep. Can you see? Yeah?
Yeah.
They look a bit jellified, you know? And so those are water kefir grains, and they feed off they feed off different types of sugar, which is basically regular sugar, and they produce different strains of bacteria than do the milk kefir grains. So it's all these different types of strains and grains, and we'll get into kombucha and whatnot in a minute. It's like having different types of populations in the world that, you know, make up different cultures, right? And so you've got the milk kefir grains to ferment milk and lactose into kefir, and then you've got these water kefir grains whose job is to ferment, is to eat up sugar, basic white sugar. I've never had so much sugar in the house since I've been sugar-free, right? It's just basic sugar and water and a little and some dried fig for that type of fruit sugar that they like, and a slice or two of lemon. And 36 to 48 hours later, you've got a fizzy drink that we call water kefir or fruit kefir. And so those grains create that type of drink with that type of sugar, whereas the milk kefir grains need the lactose from milk to create kefir. Here, and we've got the kombucha here, which I'm just going to show off my lovely jar of kombucha. Okay. 13th of May, I got this in. I could have kept it going a while longer, but I wanted to show it to you. And so basically, what we have here is what we call the first ferment. Okay, first ferment in the big jar, in the big container here, which is about 3 liters. And that is, for me, 4, 5, 6 weeks. With a normal people, it's like 10 days to 2 weeks. But I've lost the taste for sweetness to the point where anything under 4 weeks is too sweet for me for kombucha. Tea, black tea. Some people use green tea, which is fine. Tea and sugar, just regular sugar. You can use cane sugar, unbleached sugar. I use the cheapest sugar because I'm just cheap and it works just fine. Sweet tea fermented with the SCOBY and a starter, a little bit of kombucha that's already made. And you just let it ferment for a certain length of time, anywhere from 10 days to weeks and weeks, like I do. And that is called the first ferment. And that creates the kombucha. And then with kombucha, for example, you put it into a hermetic, like this is a swing top bottle. You know these bottles? Right? Then you put it in a bottle, and then you can add all your flavors that you want in the second ferment. So you've got F1, first ferment, F2 in the bottle. Because in the second ferment in the bottle, the good bacteria will take the sugars in whatever additive you give it, the fruit, whatever, and will eat it up and create the lactic acid and create the bubbles that people like in kombucha, right? And just as an aside, watch out for store-bought kombucha that's bubbly because they add bubbles to the water, carbonated water they add. It's not naturally produced by the bacteria. It's false kombucha, just saying. And I just wanted to do a quick screen share with you just to show you that those of you, I know there are some of you who are in the After Sugar Club, those of you who are in the After Sugar Club, and you can find this on my website, aftersugarclub.com, just so that you know that I've got a whole section on gut health and fermented probiotic foods here. In there was this wonderful author of a book just about sauerkraut, Holly Howe. I did a Q&A with her a while ago. That recording's in there. I've got all the recipes, how to make sauerkraut, how to make your own kombucha, your milk kefir, your mesophilic Willi yogurt, which is, it just ferments at room temperature, kimchi, and even for store-bought sauerkraut, store-bought yogurt brands, information about gut health. Yeah, so all of that is in the After Sugar Club for the members in there. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. As I say, if you think of any other questions, do ask. You know how to find me. You've got my podcast, you got my Facebook page, my Instagram. I'm all over the place. And thank you for being here.
Bye.
Bye.